The time is now 6:05. Just to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded, and during the public comment, you can, if you're online, you can raise your hand and the village clerk will acknowledge you and let you in, and we'll proceed from there. What I'd like to do is get started with the Pledge of Allegiance, but we're going to hold for 1 minute until it gets loaded up and on the screen so everybody can have the flag. So just we'll wait until the flag comes up and then we'll start the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
That's great.
Everybody see it? You ready? Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and the republic
which stands
One nation, under God,
with liberty and justice
for all.
Well,
All right, so the next on our agenda is some public comment. I believe we got one in the email, correct, Martina?
yes.
Would you be willing to read that?
Sure can. Give me one moment. Okay, so the first email I have for public comment is from Paul Higgins. He wrote, "Dear Mayor Bassett, I had the opportunity to talk with Chief Amy, and I want to publicly thank him and his department members for their tireless dedication serving the residents of Rhinebeck. I do have a concern and a suggestion regarding the rescue truck. I am concerned that there is only one bid on a $600,000 truck. More importantly, I am concerned about the added debt this will add to the village. I worry that we are borrowing and spending beyond our means. I believe that most residents are unaware of this. Therefore, I suggest that the village board defer any decision regarding the truck for 60 days to allow for public input. Information could be sent in a special message from the mayor to all residents. This additional discussion will ensure that whatever decision that the board makes has been informed by public opinion. Thank you for your time, Paul Higgins." That is the only one I have via email.
All right. Anybody else?
Yes, Gary, it's Pat Evans. I raised my hand. I just want you to know that the link, again, did not work. I had to go through Facebook. Just wanted to let you know. The link that came out in the email that had the agenda. So just FYI. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's disappointing, but thanks for letting us know, Pat.
Yeah.
Gary, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Your mic is off.
Muted while we're there.
There we go.
There we go. Thank you.
Susanna, did you have a question?
Hi, yeah, I have a quick question. I was just trying to sign on from the email and it was asking me for a password, so I just wanted to give you that information. I go through Facebook usually. I find that, or actually I found it on the village homepage. But my question is, some of my neighbors and I've seen around the village, yard waste still on the roads. I wasn't sure, are they coming around one more time? Or usually it ends in November. I wasn't sure if I missed an announcement.
Yes, yard waste removal is ongoing, and it does not usually end in November. It usually goes into December. So we had gotten a little behind because our vacuum truck was out a couple of days for damage, but it's back up and running. So the guys are out. I saw them this morning, and they'll keep going until the streets are clean. So that'll take care of it.
Or Rick, or till first snowfall.
Till first snowfall.
Right.
Okay, thank you. I'll put some stuff out.
Yeah, we do, Susanna. We do advertise a lot on this, and we post on our website, and we say it ends December 1st. But that's because you can't control leaves. But we, as Rick mentioned, we'll keep going until we're cleaned up our first snowfall.
And I'd like to mention that you need to make sure that your leaf pile is very clean because the truck, if it vacuums up large sticks, stones, and other materials, that will damage the truck. So please, if you have small limbs, other yard waste, put it to one side. The leaf piles should be leaves only, please.
Rick, one other question on that, just for the public good. What if people bag their leaves in those, paper bags that you can get at the stores? How does that affect the leaf truck? Can you stuff those up still or in the bags or no?
I am not sure what the policy with the bags are. I don't know if they just pick them up with the backhoes or if they have to cut them. We do compost all of our leaves, so probably the bag has to come out before the composting happens. But I can check with our foreman.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Pat.
This is Kathleen Evans. Rick, this is regarding the leaves as well, and it kind of piggybacks on what Susanna had said. When I walk around, many people, they either don't know it or they just don't do it. But you will have a big repair bill for your leaf vacuum truck, because just what I see on top of leaf piles, I would say more than 50% of the piles are not sorted, and who knows what's in the middle of those leaf piles or what the leaves have been put on top of. Do you have someone on foot who kind of sifts through it?
I don't watch those guys as they do their know how they're doing it. But our issue generally is trying to make sure that people understand the program. So through the mayor's newsletter, through our website, through Facebook, hopefully just word of mouth, people will start to understand what they need to do. But I'm not in front of the truck, so I can't tell you exactly how they're handling that.
It probably would be interesting to monitor how many times or how often the truck goes down because people do not put the leaves out properly and separate things. Just a thought.
All right. Well, we know it's out for a couple days, a couple of shots earlier. Now it's running.
Thank you.
So Rick, I have been out with the leaf truck, and it typically is only one person, but they're sitting on the passenger side running the controls. So they're actually looking at the piles, and what they try to do is look the pile over first before they pick it up. But sometimes, as Kathleen mentioned, if it's hidden in the pile, it could be too late, and it could get pulled up into the truck, which is what happened before. Everything was hidden in a pile. But if there's stuff on top of the pile, then we don't do it, and we come by with the backhoes and try to pick up as much stuff as we can with that. But you're right, we need to continue to educate everybody on, please do not commingle things with leaves. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'm going to go on to the next session of the agenda, which is our rescue truck and the purchase bid for the rescue truck. I'll lead this off. On with us on the phone today, we have Chief Kyle Amy and we have Blake Garrison, who is the bidder on the truck, to answer questions. So on December 2nd, myself, Treasurer Karen McLaughlin, Chief Kyle Amy, and Blake Garrison, we opened the bids, the sealed bids for the new rescue truck that were received and opened. Treasurer McLaughlin announced that one bid was received, opened it, handed it to myself, the mayor, to read it into the record, which I did. The mayor identified the bid as 1 Rosenbauer aluminum FX fire apparatus body, the Rosenbauer Commander 4-door custom chassis, a Hale HP 500 gallon per minute single state pump, 400 gallon poly tank from Garrison Fire Rescue, for a price of $579,904. There was a bid bond and non-collusion were included. We accepted a bid, and I passed that bid on to our fire chief, Kyle Amy, to take it back to the truck committee within the fire company to review and come back and report on the status of that bid. So if there's on the bid, if not, I'm going to turn this over to Chief Amy to come back with his report on the bid. Any
Yes,
questions
thank you.
on the bid?
Thank you, Mayor Bassett. We did meet with the truck committee last evening. We did go through the bid that came through and verified it with our specs. And our findings are that the bid does meet our specs for a new rescue truck.
Okay. With no exceptions, correct?
With no exceptions. No exceptions whatsoever.
There's some other interesting information that we received on the bid, that this proposed bid will take 400 calendar days after being awarded and signed by, and having a contract signed or receipt of approval by the purchase order. And the bid prices will remain valid for 60 days from the date of the bid opening. So that's key. There was one clause in the bill, in the package, that there was an option, I should say. There's an option to pay a chassis price of $263,396 at the time of the completion of the chassis. If we do that, that would deduct $10,111 from the bid. All right. I know, Karen, I'm going to turn it over to you now. Karen, you've done some reviews, and could you bring us up to date on some financing options that you looked at to date and our current debt status?
Okay. Thank you. And Kyle did reach out to go over the purchase of the rescue truck. I, in turn, reached out to Munistat, our financial advisors, to get an estimated debt schedule for the truck, which, because we don't have to start the paying the bond until a year after we take the bond out for the purchase of the truck, our first payment would be in the 22-23 fiscal year. So I also, after that, I took a look at our long-term debt and our debt schedule, and we have a bond coming, a $40,000 bond for the police land that's going to be maturing in 2022. In 2023, we will have paid off the vac truck, and that is $40,000. And we have 2 police cars coming off in 21, and then also in 23. So, given that, it looks like that it is feasible to do this purchase. And Martina, I know you had mentioned in the person who called and asked about the debt. I also want to just let you know that every year I prepare a constitutional tax limit for the village, and it's filed with the New York State Comptroller's Office. So our debt ratio is reported to New York State every year. We also have a fiscal monitoring system. So we are like on the radar if we start having debt issues, or if we take on more debt than we can handle. But at this time, I do not see that, as well as I also see some bonds maturing in the next 2 years, 2-3 years.
Thank you, Karen. I'd just like to remind everybody that we did bring this up and agreed at our last meeting, and we put the bid packages out for 30 days. Even though we only got one bid, Martina, I believe you got several calls. Is that correct? You're muted, Martina.
Yes, I sent bid specs to 5 separate individuals.
Okay. All right, so first I'm going to open it up to discussion for the board, and then I'll open it up for any public comment.
So
Remember,
Karen,
Blake Garrison is here who can answer any technical questions that the chief cannot. So please take advantage of the resource while you have it.
my question is really for Karen, just to make sure I get this in layman's terms. So right now we are paying a certain amount of debt service, which some of these debts are about to be retired. They will no longer, we won't be paying them within the next 2 to 3 years. And so basically what we're doing is those, but we'd be taking on new debt and using what we were currently paying basically to roll forward into the new debt.
Correct.
Okay. And I know interest rates are great right now. Is there any way we can lock in like a low interest rate, or is not yet?
No, we can't lock in until we actually go out to the market for the bond.
So Rick, just let me follow up with that, because what's important to note is, you know, if you add up what Karen said's coming off, it's equivalent to $90,000. And Karen, you did a, what do you want to call it? You went out and got from council a payment schedule based on a conservative estimate. Is that correct?
Correct. It's based on a conservative 3%.
And that conservative estimate starts out in 2023 of 25,000. Remember, we're retiring 90,000. So, and then, but it ramps up at a 3%. If it's 3%, it's 25,000 in 23. It goes to 35,000 in 24. Stays there till 2030 when it goes to 40,000. And then 2033 goes to 45,000 to finish out the bond in the year 2037. So that's a conservative of what we would be paying for the bond on this truck starting in 2023.
So this is a 15-year amortization?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
So
And,
I also
Karen,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, sort of speaking of all of this, what is our current debt ratio, and what do you predict would be the future debt ratio?
I'm not sure. I think it's about 26%. I'll have to go back to our constitutional tax limit, which amortizes it over the last 5 years. So
Okay.
I can get back to you on that. I don't know exactly what it is right now.
Okay, but right now it's 26-ish%, and you're expecting that because we're retiring a bunch of stuff, it's just going to get lower from there, even with this new bond, correct?
Correct. Unless you take on more, right?
Right, unless we, buy a building or something. Yeah.
Right. But I think it's going into the 21-22 budget. I think it's feasible to put this into your budget planning.
And then remind us again, Karen, how much was the value of the contract with, I know that the fire department just took on a new area to cover. I believe that was with the town of Rhinebeck, right. It used to be with Rhine Cliff, and they switched it to Rhinebeck Fire Department. How much was the value of that contract?
$32,000.
Okay, so in some respects, the value of that contract could be applied towards this debt service.
Correct. I'm just being very conservative and just using just the expenses.
Yep, I get that.
We did just add the $450,000 bond for the asphalt work. So that pretty much the police station, $40,000 a year savings probably would go to that. But if we're retiring the back truck and a couple of police cars, and it might be a wash.
That's 60, right? That's about 60,000 for
60,000
for the back truck and the 2 police cars.
So a question for either Kyle or Mr. Garrison. What's the service life of a truck like this?
Usually, Rick, we have obviously a replacement plan. If you looked at the replacement plan that we had for the truck that we're replacing, we start looking at these trucks in 20 years old, if they're still running, and then kind of get an idea where we're going from there. So we've averaged anywhere between 20 to 23, 24 years on a life service of this apparatus.
So Rick, just to remind you, the current rescue truck that we would be replacing was purchased in 1995.
Right. It's 25 years old.
So I was wondering if Kyle could give us, I don't want to put him on the spot, but if you could give us the skinny again on what it's like to maintain the jalopy that we have now that's from 1995, just so we're kind of comparing what we're headed into if we get a new vehicle.
Well, the thing is, and I think I brought this up at our last workshop when we were able to be in person, is probably about almost 2 years ago is things started failing on this piece of apparatus, and one of the biggest things that started failing is when we lost the generator system. Now, whenever a piece of apparatus, either a ladder truck or an engine, as we purchase, we build in a generator system. So it's all in-house and everything else. So when we found out that after that generator system failed and it would have cost $17,000 to replace it, and with speaking with Hopewell Fire and knowing that this piece of apparatus is valued at under $10,000, and we've had this conversation with Blake, it wasn't worth the while to put $17,000 in it.
Right.
We do a yearly maintained service to meet NFPA standards each year with our apparatus, and that consists of pump test, frame test, lighting, engine work, and so forth. And I did submit a copy of what it would cost, and that was done in February of 2020, to bring this piece of apparatus up to spec, including the generator. And if I went on the low side of what they estimated, it would be $36,000. If I went on the high side, it would be $39,500 to invest in this piece of apparatus that we're not going to even remotely get back in a return. And plus, we're definitely into the 20+ mark that we try to do the equipment replacement.
And Kyle, I'd just like to bring up along with that that service estimate, it did not include the original pump that's in this truck. So if that original pump fails anytime in the near future, I think we are left with a truck that's not even usable. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right, because there's no way we can retrofit a new pump into the 1995 truck.
No, and just like there's no way that we could retrofit a generator system from that's a truck that is 20+ years old into the system that we have now. We do have a portable generator that we're able to fit into a compartment. We are operating with that, but it's only running half of our capacity. It's only run halving of our scene light, and it's only running half of our hydraulic jaw system.
And there was one other thing. This report that you got did not include a review of the engine, which we know is leaking, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Kyle, could you explain also why you think you only got one bid for this?
Well, that question gets asked a lot, and with being involved in 4 pieces of apparatus of a purchase, being an officer, either from a lieutenant all the way to a chief, you go into these at least, and I can speak for Rhinebeck, and whenever we've gone to purchase a piece of apparatus, we've always gone into the either village clerk or the treasurer, and looking to see where we stand, and we get an idea of what we want to, what we can basically afford. So we kind of, when we meet with vendors and everything, we say, hey, our budget is kind of within, this, and, what can you do for us? So what we do is we go out and we call, obviously, Rosenbauer, which has able to in the past supply us a piece of apparatus. We get a hold of K&E, another manufacturer. We get a hold of Pierce, which is another manufacturer, and we get a hold of Emergency One. And I believe that's about usually it, because you get any farther than that, any more manufacturers than that, then they get beyond a 50-mile radius of where we're looking to be able to have something serviced if something goes wrong. So we sit down and we meet with every manufacturer, and we tell them what we're looking for, we tell them what we want, and we tell them what our price range is, and that's based on what we know, as Karen as Karen stated early in her report, of where we can go without raking everything and still keep within, obviously, our budget to be able to keep everything flat as much as possible. But the thing is that with these fire truck manufacturers, it's no different than, a BMW versus a Yugo or a Chevy versus a Ford. I mean, there's everybody has their price. And fortunately, with E1, that is probably the top manufacturer out there because of the name. As long as with Pierce and everything else, in my past experience, as we come across, is a lot of people won't bid on a piece of apparatus because of the dollar amount. Now, when we just 4 years ago, back in 2016, we put out the 5922, our attack engine, now to bid. We only had 2 bids, and that was Rosenbauer, and I believe it came in 400,000 change, and correct me if I don't have the exact amount. But I do remember clearly that E1 came in, which is only located right across the river in the Ulster County area. They came in $123,000 more than Rosenbauer. So obviously we took the Rosenbauer bid. We've been happy with Rosenbauer. Rosenbauer was one of the manufacturers that we met with, as well as the others, to go over and look and what we're looking for. So, I mean, Blake, please jump in at any time. I mean, obviously Blake is doing this constantly. There's also, and Blake can touch base on, is that each manufacturer that comes in and specs a truck, there's a large dollar amount it costs the engineers and everything to come up with a spec for you without anybody even putting the money on. So I don't know if you would like Blake to discuss that further of how that operation works.
Blake, this is Mayor Gary Bassett. I'd like to have you, while we have you, just talk a little bit about your company, well, the company that you work for, Garrison Fire and Rescue. I know that you are currently in Palinville, but could you let the board know about how the truck gets built?
Sure, certainly. So we're located in Palinville. We've been there since 1975. We moved locations in 92, just about a half a mile up the street. But I took over the company in 2011. As the chief mentioned, 2016, we had bid on a truck for the village of Rhinebeck. We were a successful bidder. So we had pretty good knowledge of the operations and the wants and needs of the fire department. As far as Rosenbauer, which is the manufacturer we represent, and should we be the successful bidder, your contract would actually be with Rosenbauer. We're just a local agent. And I equate this more to the way you would buy buildings within the village than buying a vehicle. You don't come to a lot. You don't buy a vehicle out of a showroom. This is a several-month process developing specifications, and the reason it takes over a year to build these are very complex. I think our bid proposal specs were somewhere in the neighborhood of 147 pages, detailing right down to all these fine details. How our process works is once we're awarded a contract or a purchase order, we turn it into the factory. It is scrubbed by civil engineering teams that they will look at it even further than we have in the past and see if there's any complications. We take those concerns back to the fire department. We are based out of Sioux Falls, just north of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Our chassis plant, we make our own chassis as well. Our chassis plant is just north of Minneapolis, Minnesota. So our plants are about 4 hours apart. Once we get into the build process, we would procure, you mentioned earlier, pumps, generators. We would get all that on order. As your chassis is being built, we're stockpiling the parts for it. The chassis gets completed somewhere around 6 months, and that's a key figure for you folks to take into consideration because we did offer that chassis prepayment somewhere around that, sometimes 4, sometimes 6 month time period. We would send out an invoice if you decided to exercise that option for the prepayment, and that's based off of 4%. With that, then the truck goes to South Dakota. It goes through a build process, and the same as we did in 2016. Typically, we take a couple representatives of the truck committee because these are complex pieces of equipment. We go out and The gentleman that came out with us last time could certainly tell you we spent about 2 days going from front cover to back cover for adherence. We also do performance, quality control, and obviously you folks have been into that fire station before. The folks, they keep pretty pristine equipment there. So it sounds a little silly, but we spend a lot of time going over paint and fit and finish, but that's an important part of the final product. From that point, some people look at that as the end of the process when we deliver. We sort of look at that as the beginning. And the chief could attest to that. We're located less than a half an hour from you folks. So, you know, whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, fires don't sleep. So if the truck breaks down, you know, we cover the warranty all through the period. Different types of components have different warranties, but we'll cover it the whole way through. You folks do have another agency that does your preventative maintenance, so that would be, you still deal with those folks. But we're the local sales and service, so we handle all the warranty work as well. So that's basically the process. If anybody has questions on the previously mentioned things, I could certainly add to those, but I think the chief and the mayor touched on most of it.
One more question. And this is to Chief. When you guys developed the spec, was there any compromises you made to keep that price, or are you able to get really what you need? And that's an important question, I think, for me to know that you're getting what you need.
Well, as mayor, as you know how I work is that, you know, I don't go after the bells and whistles. I go after the needs and
Right.
what we can get. And my first priority is keeping this as the price as low as I can do, but still get a piece of equipment that's going to be able to serve our needs. So we buy the equipment based on how we're going to operate out in the field. As Gary, as you know, as being a member of a fire company, is I don't buy a parade piece of apparatus. I buy a piece of equipment that I know that I can keep the dollar amount with the village and budget operations, and that still is going to give the best needs that we have for the village and the protective district.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for anyone? Pat or Kathleen?
Hi, it's Pat. So I understand that a bid bond was part of the initial bid package. Is a 100% performance bond part of the requirement? I have not looked at the requirements. I'm just curious whether there will be a performance bond to guarantee the contract. Is that part of the specs?
Do you want me to chime in, Mayor? This is Blake.
Yes, please, Blake.
Yes, Blake.
Yes. So the last time around in 2016, there was no performance bond required. There was none included this time around. What we have seen in the last, and I'm talking just from what I've seen between municipalities, cities, villages, fire districts, the performance bond in the fire apparatus world has sort of gone by the wayside. With a prepayment, your biggest risk is if you put money up, because that would truly be your only risk. So at month 6, if you're invoiced for a chassis, that chassis becomes yours. New York State municipal law states that municipality cannot pay for something tangible. Now, I know the construction world's a little different. You cannot pay for something that's not tangible. So we couldn't ask for money at contract signing, et cetera. However, when that chassis is completed, we would send an invoice. If you opted for that prepayment discount, the manufacturer's statement of origin, basically what becomes your title, that would be put in the name of the village of Rhinebeck. Should something happen that the manufacturer went out of business, et cetera, you now own that chassis and another manufacturer could build upon that. What we found is that with bond rates, you're going to pay much more than what your risk is. Truly your only risk that we see on the fire side of things on a performance bond is if the manufacturer does not perform, you've just moved the process back several months. You have no investment except for some time, et cetera. So We probably have not done even in, I'll mention three names that probably sound familiar: City of Albany, City of Schenectady, City of Troy. All are customers of Garrison and Rosenbauer, and none of those folks do performance bonds. We certainly offer them. It would be at a charge. The 10% bid bond, for those of you who don't know, what a bid bond does is guarantee that if for some reason I made a hiccup and all of a sudden I look at my pricing and say, oh boy, that price should have been $650,000, that bid bond secures that bid price for you. Performance bond, what the bonding company would do the onus would be on them to find you another vendor to produce an apparatus at the price that you bid it out at.
Well, that is correct. I was in that industry, and what you said is correct. I just am going to make a comment to the board that if you do this prepayment option, that you may have title to a chassis, but do you really want to take possession of a chassis and find somebody else? I think it may make sense to have some sort of performance security that you can go to an insurance company or a surety company that would then take on that obligation for you. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the manufacturer or with Blake. It's just that you're talking about a sum of money that is a lot. And I don't think you want to take possession of the chassis. That's just my own personal opinion.
And
If I could add, go ahead.
Chat, like the prepayment, sorry, this is Trustee Bertozzi. That would, I think you mentioned, that would save us about $10,000 if we were to do the prepayment. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I guess the question is, finding this other mechanism that Pat's talking about, is that worth more than $10,000?
Right. That's what I was going to chime in on, is that what we found is that some folks who do feel that way, what they will do is just forgo, don't take the chassis prepay. You would probably still realize, I'm going to say it's going to take up about 40% of that you would probably spend in bid bond. And I can certainly provide the mayor a price on bid bond. I can do that for you tomorrow.
A performance bond, not a
yes, for right, correct, for a performance price for the performance bond. But what we have found is that may be, let's say, $4,500. So at that point, to be out your $250,000 for 6 months might not make as much sense. So again, it's certainly an option that you don't have to exercise. And we also, you could research it yourself, but we can also provide a surety bond for performance, but that would be at a price. I can certainly provide that. Those numbers.
Who was the surety company that provided the bid bond?
We have a company. I do not know the name of it, but I can certainly, along with the price tomorrow, I could send you a copy of one that we've used. I don't know offhand, and I'm not at my office right now, so I can't even pull one out. But yeah, it is independent. It's not Rosenbauer. We're not self-bonded or anything.
Okay, so does the manufacturer provide the bid bond?
That's what I was saying. We can certainly provide it. We have had, several years back, bid bonds were more of a common occurrence. And yes, I mean, that's something that it would be just part of the contract and would just be added to the price. There wouldn't be a separate invoice. We would just say an option for, let's say it's $4,500 for 100% performance bond, and that would be provided shortly after the contract signing.
The other comment that I'd make to the board to just be aware of is Blake mentioned the warranties. And Blake, I'm not trying to cast any sort of doubt on your ability to service the warranty, but that's another thing that a performance bond guarantees are those warranties that come with the truck. So again, I'm just trying to make you aware of some of the things that a performance bond does and the benefits, in my mind, that a performance bond does. I understand there's a cost involved, but just thought you should be aware of it's just not only a delivery issue, but there's a warranty issue as well. So having said all that, then I want to move on. Karen, can you tell me how much is being what is the amount that's going to be financed? Is it going to be
580,000.
so the full amount of the purchase?
Correct.
So my other question is, you mentioned some debt schedules and things like that. So this is having to do with, for lack of a better word, I'm going to call it the general fund debt. It doesn't have to do with the water fund or the water area debt and
Right.
some of the taken on as a result of the water main project. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay. So when you give a percentage, it's just for the general fund, not necessarily the entire village obligation.
Correct. Water is excluded from that via New York state law. So yes, it is just general.
Yeah, as well as the sewer or whatever too, right?
Right. That's because the water and the sewer districts are separate districts.
Understood. I understand. I'm just trying to, I wanted to make sure when you were talking about debt percentages, how those arrived at. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Karen,
So-
you have your hand up, but I also have a question, because do you have an opinion about taking out the pre-purchase for the chassis? 'Cause
Yeah.
In other words, we would have to bond for that as well, right?
Right, and that was my point too. If we were going to pay for the 250 for the chassis, we'd have to bond that, and then we'd have to bond the balance. And I think that by the time we bonded it once and paid all the closing costs and then bonded again when the truck was finished, I think it would be our best decision to just bond the whole thing once.
All right, so let's talk, oh, Blake, you got your hands up.
Yes, I just looked up in the meantime, the one trustee that had the question, that bonding company that we've used, and this was one from January, so I'm assuming we're still using it. The name of that is North American Specialty Insurance Company out of Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay, thank you. And I'm not a trustee. I'm a interested observer. Thank you.
Okay, no problem, but I can certainly provide information to the village on that. So.
And that's a recognizable name. I think that's a good name. So just for what it's worth, thank you.
Good. It's worth a lot, actually. Thank you.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the process. And this is, the process that we're following is the same thing we did on the previous truck in terms of going out, doing the review, getting the assessment, getting the specs, coming to the village board, going out for contract, getting the bid packages, opening the bid packages, and then also now come up to a point where we're really at the point where we need to decide if we want to go out to contract. So, any discussion on wanting to on contract after hearing the discussion?
Mayor, may I speak for? This is
Yes,
Kyle.
please.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, I want to thank all board members and obviously the residents of Rhinebeck for asking questions. As I've said in the past, I want people to ask questions and want to know the process and how we're doing things, and they should be educated on such. And so I do thank everybody for asking the questions that they do. It's my recommendation. Obviously, with working on this truck committee for probably about 1.5 years now, working side by side with other vendors and Blake as well, who supplied us a rig 4 years ago. And I can't thank enough with Karen, with me coming in probably every other day, speaking to her and seeing how we can make this work and how it's going to happen. So my hat goes off to Karen for obviously keeping us all in check when it comes to our finances. So with that being said, and hearing everybody's views and concerns, I believe, and I feel they're answered. I believe with having Blake on the line, I believe with the trustworthy of our truck committee and everything that we have presented, it's the recommendations from myself and the truck committee that the village board goes forward by signing a contract for the purchase of our new rescue truck to replace 5953 which is 25 years old.
All right, so what we'll do is I'm going to make a motion to accept the bid for $579,904 from Garrison for the purchase of the new rescue truck for the village of Rhinebeck, without the option one for the paying for the chassis. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by
That was
Lydia.
Lydia.
Okay, so now discussion.
I'm sorry, the performance bond issue, we could settle this in tomorrow, or that's forthcoming. Right?
Yes, we'll have.
Yeah, this is Blake. We would certainly, that option would be available to you right up until the day that chassis is done.
Yeah, the chassis. Okay.
We'd still send you an invoice, and if you opt not to pay it, then we just move forward as if nothing happened.
Okay.
And on a performance bond, we could certainly add a performance bond at any period, even in month 5. If you said, yes, we want to exercise that, we could provide a performance bond mid-contract.
Okay.
Blake, I had a quick question about the bond. Did you say that adds some level of price protection too, if there turns out that the pumps get very expensive or something like that? Just wanted to be clear about that.
No, your price would be protected. You know, your price is actually currently protected for the 60 days for the proposal. So that's what your bid bond did. You know, your bid bond, not the performance bond. So yes, right now, if for some reason I made a mistake, or the vendor said, "Hey, we underpriced this. We don't want the deal." This actually happened in my own fire department up here in Greene County in Palenville several years ago. Company went bankrupt, and it was either they paid the difference or they paid you 10% of that bid price to back out of it. So the price protection, your truck will be price protected. Obviously, signing the contract locks everything into place, but right now it is locked in place until whatever the bid date was plus 60 days. Yes, that would lock you in.
Yeah. So that's my point. We have a guaranteed price
Correct.
for delivery.
Right.
Just to remind everybody, it's a minimum of, I think, is it a minimum of 400 days that you have in the package, or is that the anticipated?
It's an approximate. We typically quote 330 to 365. COVID has certainly affected all industries. We have been fairly fortunate. We've had 3 cases throughout our 500 plus employees at Rosenbauer, which has been minimal on slowing the process. However, it's our supply chain. We've had Rear Axles, one of your neighbors over in the village of Tivoli. Their truck that's on order was delayed because of an axle delay. We have some lighting manufacturers. So it really has to do with supply chain. We're a large enough manufacturer that we've been able to source most of our things elsewhere. Something such as an axle. We're past that. It delayed the truck about 2 months. But that's the reason that it's a little bit more of an extended process. We're typically, though, delivering right around a year. As I mentioned to the committee in conversations, it could be down to 330. It could be 400. You know, we're in such flux right now. But as a standalone, as ourselves within the walls of Rosenbauer, we have slowed production.
So Kyle, I have a question for you. What's our plan for the next year for the current rescue truck, given its current condition, and do we have a backup plan if it bites the dust?
To be very careful. No, we have made adjustments, Mayor, in the last year. We have taken that piece of equipment off alarm assignments that we felt weren't needed to be on due to the condition of that piece of apparatus, and that rescue truck is being strictly responding to what it's been spec'd for, and that's rescue, meaning any kind of MVA, auto accidents, stuck elevators, equipment accidents, farm accidents, forcible entry, and I mean the list goes on. But we have definitely scaled back on running that piece of equipment on all the calls to try to save it. Hopewell Fire has been great by patching things up when needed, and without turning into a large overhead cost. If something does happen, which obviously we hope not, between 5932 and 5969, which is our pickup truck, we're confident that between those two pieces, we can have the extrication and special equipment put on those pieces of apparatus, and we'll have to respond with two pieces of apparatus instead of one.
And we do have mutual aid though as well, right?
Yes, and obviously that will be looked at too with the quadrants of our district, depending on where something is. We could very well turn around, either put a department on standby or have them on the initial response coming in, depending on the severity of the call.
Any more questions by the board? Having none, I'm going to make a roll call. I'm going to start out with Trustee Lewitt.
Sorry.
You're muted.
Aye.
Aye. Trustee Nuneker.
Aye.
Trustee Bertozzi.
Aye.
Trustee Slavy.
Aye.
Mayor Bassett, aye. All right, so we will move forward. Congratulations, Blake. We will sign the contract for your truck, for the village of Rhinebeck. Looking
Thank you. Should
forward to a delivery?
Should I contact the chief regarding this or yourself, Mayor?
No, the contract will be signed by us.
Okay.
So, out of our
So
office.
I'll get with Martina then on that, and I certainly appreciate it. And for all the folks on this meeting, if you have any questions, filter. The mayor and the chief both have my email address. I'd be more than happy to answer any of them. And I will get you that bond number tomorrow. I'll send you the email.
Right. Thank you, Blake.
Thank you.
Good
Okay,
information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle, for all of your
All
hard
right,
work.
again, thank you everybody on the village board for your support and the understanding. I appreciate it, and to the public.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kyle, for all of your hard work.
Okay, let's move on. The next item on the agenda is we currently have two contracts, one with the town of Rhinebeck and one with our school, which we offer police services for. As a result of reviewing our current cost for providing police services, the last time we did this for the town was in 2013. We have not modified, this contract has not been modified since 2013, and it was a rollover contract since then. And it had a standard rate of $50 an hour for police and $40 an hour for for the car, basically, is what we were charging the town. Karen did a review of our costs associated with the police department and a vehicle, and in the vehicle itself, using the 2020 FEMA equipment rental rate for a police vehicle was $16.05. An average of our salaries, right, was $31.17. The taxes, the retirement, and unemployment brings that up to $65. So it is an increase from $50 for the town, and for the last time was with the SRO with the school was in 2017, 3 years ago. That contract is expired and be renewed. That was at $45, so that would go from $45 to $65 an hour. So I'd like to make a motion that we amend our contract with the town of Rhinebeck for police and services for our police department, to amend the contract to be changed for patrol and protection, $65 per hour, and for court attendance to $49 per hour, plus the federal state business for mileage and rate. And for the school, for the SRO, to change that from $45 an hour for police and to operate as SRO officers in the school from $45 to $65 per hour.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Lewis, second. Discussion.
So I was just wondering if if the insurance company had looked over these coverage limits and the attorney had looked under the indemnity language and stuff.
So both of these contracts,
Liability.
yeah, both of the contracts were previously approved by our attorney. So we're not changing any of the liabilities. We can do that if you would like. I have not taken them back through our council for review, except for the SRO, which was reviewed and has been reviewed by the school.
Right, but I mean, it says that we have an umbrella policy of $10 million. I just wanted to make sure that we have this stuff matches what we're promising.
Karen, I can't answer that question. Do you have any information on that?
And I didn't look at the indemnity policy. I mean, we'd have to take a look at it. And we can take a look at our current policy and see if it's changed since then.
Okay, can we just, I mean, we could condition the approval based upon, that.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. So we could amend the motion to up the rates and pending the review of the indemnity policy and make appropriate changes.
And the coverage limits, yeah. Indemnity language and coverage limit, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Any others? Yep.
Yeah, why the rates are different for the court versus the others?
No
Because
car.
they don't need the car.
Because you just walk over.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Either courthouse.
Okay, have a second. We'll do a roll call again. Trustee Lewitt,
Aye.
Trustee Nuneker,
Aye.
Trustee Bertozzi,
Aye.
Trustee Slavy,
Aye.
and Mayor Bassett, aye. We will update these contracts, get the reviews done, and then if no changes are required, the town we've already notified the town and we've already notified the school of our intent to raise these, and we'll get these contracts amended and sent to both the parties. Thank you. Next is LED street lighting. No, excuse me, purchasing agreement. Skipped over to purchasing agreement.
Yeah.
Vanessa.
I'll give a quick update on that. So we're still working on it. Long story short, we want to make sure that we do this properly, and we do it in a way that's going to be user friendly for years to come, and for boards that follow us. So we're still talking to Rich Olson, our attorney, to see if this could be adopted via resolution, or should we actually do the public hearing as a piece of the code. So we're still working through it, and we just want to make sure that we have it all buttoned up and no one's confused, including myself. So stay tuned.
So your recommendation is to table this, correct?
Yeah, we're not voting on it tonight.
Okay. Is there anybody has any questions on the procurement policy so that we can get those questions answered before next month?
Yes, so just real quick, substantively, whatever draft you guys have now is pretty much, I think, what it's going to look like. It's a question of us moving it around and putting things in the right place, but.
Okay, so
whatever
if we review what you have, that's pretty much what ideally we'll be voting on next month.
Yeah, it's pretty close, right? Is that fair, Vanessa?
That's correct. We're all in agreement with the substance, with the threshold dollar amounts. It's really just a matter of understanding what's the best procedure to have it adopted. It's more of a technical, procedural, legal question at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, and what's gonna be the most durable for years to come.
Got it.
Okay. Any other questions? Not, we'll table this to next month and put it back on the agenda. Okay, the next item on the agenda is LED street lighting. Both Trustee Lewitt and myself received a letter from New York Power Authority on the current Village of Rhinebeck LED street lighting project. And just to bring everybody up to date, you know, the municipalities that are participating in this, especially on the other side of the river, they've pretty much completed their work. They're now ready to move over to this side of the river and start working. And so what we got in the email was basically a request to either approve this as essential or non-essential as workers during this COVID period. And I did do some research and again went back through the state guidelines, and since this is utility, it is considered as essential. It can, I mean, we don't have to do that, but it is considered essential services. The other thing I want to mention is the town of Red Hook and the town of Rhinebeck got these letters as well. The town of Red Hook has signed the letter already and declared it as essential. The town of Rhinebeck has signed a letter and declared it non-essential, right? Rick, do you have anything you would like to add to this?
Not at the moment. This is really something for NIPA should additional COVID conditions evolve. They're not changing their schedule as it is. So this is basically gives them a piece of paper to make a decision on where they're going to prioritize or not prioritize. I do think for us, one thing I'll note is that NIPA was definitely trying to come to both the village and the town at the same time, just for an efficiency point of view. And the town going not essential may or may not have an impact on how they start scheduling the job.
So Rick, we're a little bit behind the town of Red Hook. I mean, the town of Red Hook, they're expecting to start within the next week
Right.
to replacing their lights. We still have a couple steps to go through till they could start our work.
Right. Basically, we are still up at the state regulatory level. We had to release some paperwork from Central Hudson so that they could give it to the state, and basically the state is taking their sweet time to finish processing our paperwork. Basically, it goes before the Public Service Commission. They get to review it. You know, we have Igor, who's basically our project manager from NIPA, has been pushing on them. He knows all the players. He's been pushing on them as much as possible, but that's basically where we stand. The NIPA is chomping at the bit. They're pushing to get the stuff through the state.
So it's really to our advantage not to hold this up, since they're on this side of the river and going to be working. Is that
Right.
correct?
That's correct.
Right. All right, so I wanted to bring this up to everybody's attention since there was an issue and really have a vote on this to declare it either essential or non-essential. I'll make the motion and then we'll go into discussion. I'd like to make a motion to declare the Village of Rhinebeck LED street lighting NIPA project ESN 0718 as essential services for the village. Do I have a second?
Second.
Vanessa. All right, discussion.
So just so if people remember, the reason why we were able to commence the water line project was because by one emergency order, they were deemed essential. So, you know, I think this is a question of whether we want to be held up or not by the unforeseen factors involving a global pandemic.
I mean, really what we're getting.
That's half of a question too. I'm not sure I quite understand all this.
Just so everybody understands the scope of work, it's a couple guys in a truck going around replacing lights.
Right, and they're going to be isolated.
And they're outside, so.
Yeah.
But they could,
So, like,
if
so
we
by
declare
doing-
it non-essential, they couldn't be held up.
Right.
Yeah.
But by declaring it essential, and if they do end up doing this work, if this all goes haywire in January, February, we're not actually putting them in danger because they're working by themselves, isolated, outdoors.
Correct.
Okay, that would be my only concern, is that we're, bringing people in here when potentially it could hit them. But if they're going to be entirely isolated and outdoors, then that makes more sense.
Yeah, that's why I brought that up, because I thought it was important.
Yeah.
It seemed to be my understanding from Igor that this mostly affected the timing, that they're going to keep working. This is should the state bring a pause, then they are going to sort their jobs based upon essential or not essential, but they're going to keep working. It's just a question of where we want to be in the queue.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay.
All right.
I'm going to go by vote. Trustee Lewitt.
Aye.
Trustee Nudiger.
Aye, essential.
Trustee Pertosa.
Aye.
Trustee Slavy.
Aye.
Mayor Bassett, aye. All right, so I will sign this and we'll get it to Igor, Rick, so we can declare ourselves essential and keep this thing moving.
Right.
All right. Very good. Next on the list is a special request. If everybody noticed, I reorganized the schedule today, so we're putting all the things we need to vote on up front, and then we're going to go into reports and that kind of stuff later, because I just felt from a public point of view, sometimes we didn't get the voting stuff till very late, and I thought I would like to move this up front to keep it, so give people more flexibility on the meeting. All right, so we do have a request from the Mid-Hudson Driving Association, and the Mid-Hudson Driving Association is really a horse-drawn buggy. Okay, so the request is for December 13th in 2020 from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 to have a horse-drawn buggy drive through the village of Rhinebeck. They will start out at the library or at the town garage. They've already received approval from the town to bring their horse buggies and what paraphernalia and park in that area so that they can unload and get into the village easily. They would set out from the library, drive east on Market Street, zigzag through the village, and return west on Market Street. So Mid-Hudson Driving Association is really a horse-drawn buggy, and they really come up, they're very close. They live here on Acker Hook Road, and so they're local community members. Really, they're not giving rides. They're going around spreading holiday cheer. So I'd like to make a motion to accept the application for the Mid-Hudson Driving Association for December 13th to go around and spread holiday cheer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any question?
I want holiday cheer.
Any question or discussion?
Is Santa going to be riding around in the carriage?
Martina, I don't think there's anybody in it, correct?
So their plan is to have 1 or 2 carriages, depending on how many horses they bring out. It's any of his associates that could be riding in the carriages, and he did actually mention that one of his employees may actually be on a horse, but I don't believe they plan to be dressing up as anybody.
Just for everybody's information, on that evening, the firehouse has already announced that they will be traveling around the village of Rhinebeck. I forget which quadrant. If Kyle is still on, he could answer that, but I don't see him. But the fire department is going to be there doing their traditional fire truck, but they will have with their entourage this year a sleigh with Santa on a sleigh, pulled by Dave's Tree Service.
My God, I'm going to get my nephew in. It's going to be great.
Yeah. So Santa will be coming to the village on December 13th. And I think it's 2 weekends in a row. I don't have their publication with me, but that evening, the Rhinebeck Fire Department will be doing it. All right, so I'm just going to do this one by a...
I do have one question.
Go ahead.
Do you have a question? Who scoops the poop?
You're not gonna kill Santa, are you?
He
No,
hasn't
no, no.
volunteered to make sure that the animal waste is cleaned up.
Who did that?
Kiernan, the owner of the
Thank you.
operation, he has
Great.
a volunteer.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Highway Department thanks you.
Very good. All right, so all in favor of approving the Mid-Hudson Driving Association carriage ride?
Aye.
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 Opposed? So carried. Martina, please. All right. You are all aware that we had two applications or two people apply for retirement in the month of December, right? First, we have Michael Wolf, who is a 28-year member of the Village of Rhinebeck, working his way through the ranks of the Highway Garage and will be retiring as foreman of the Highway Garage. So we need to do a couple actions. The first action is to accept his retirement. Okay. So the first thing I'd like to do is to make a motion to accept the retirement of our long-term standing highway supervisor, Mike Wolf.
I will second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I want to say thanks to Mike. He was the foreman when I got here, and he really taught me a lot about the department and what to look for. And he was really somebody I enjoyed working with. He's I know got a whole bunch of exciting things planned for his life. So I know that he's probably excited.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, these guys are like family to us. All of our employees are like that, here in the Village of Rhinebeck. And, Mike's been a great asset through all his years. I will tell you that he said if we, when this happens, you lose some brain trust, right? Yeah. We have a great crew out there, but there's a lot of knowledge that's probably not documented that we discovered when we were doing the roads this summer from the water repair that we would consult Mike on a lot. So he said he would make himself available. He loves the village. He wants to make sure that things keep going very well for us. So he agreed to, at any time, I could pick up the phone and say, Mike, what do you know? Right? And have that. And that's a valuable thing to have. All right. So all in favor of accepting the retirement of Michael Wolf, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
With regret.
Regretfully.
Opposed? Yes. All right. Accept retirement. Second thing is he has also requested a buyout of his vacation time. We all know Mike has been out for quite some time, usually using up his vacation and some of his sick time, but he still has a significant amount in the bank that we would need to buy out. So Karen, I always defer to you to make sure that you've looked at this to make sure that this is an affordable option for us to execute on. Karen, you're muted.
Yes, it is at this time.
Very good. Thank you. All right, so I'd like to make a motion to accept the vacation buyout for Mike Wolf.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Very good. Mike's great. So next one, kind of a little bit of a surprise, but not really, because I've been talking to John Raimondo a lot in terms of John has also submitted his application for retirement. Everybody makes their minds up at different levels when they go through this. I've worked with lots of people over time. Some people take a long time. Some people decide the day they wake up, right? I do know that John has been thinking about this and consulting with his family and making sure that he has everything in place. And, bottom line is he's looking forward to working on his projects that he has going. He has several projects outside of here to doing, and taking some valuable time to, in the very near future, to probably do some traveling with his wife when they retire. So John Raimondo has been with us for now 21 years. He started also out in the highway department and was moved from the highway department, I don't know how many years ago, but not that long ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago, to the village, and has been doing all of the maintenance here on the village. So he's been the handyman du jour for the police department, for the village hall. He's been responsible for cleaning police department, village hall. He plows the municipal parking lot, both municipal parking lots, and et cetera here. So, again, a valuable member of our family, but I am envious of anybody that gets to this position and can make this decision and say, I really want to retire. So I'd like to make a motion to accept the retirement of John Raimondo from the village of Rhinebeck, effective December 18th, although his last pay period would be December 24th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Brant. All right, any discussion?
I just want to thank John. He's always, when I talk to him and I work with him, he's always trying to help me out and do good stuff. So I appreciated that.
Yeah.
All the time.
Again, there's a brain trust here of things inside this building that we may never know. All right. But he's also available by contact. All right. So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So accepted the retirement of John Raimondo. John Raimondo has also asked for a vacation buyout that he has. So again, before we discuss, I'm going to defer to Karen on John Raimondo's vacation buyout and make sure that this is acceptable within our current budget.
He's all set. Yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Karen. All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the vacation buyout for John Raimondo.
Second.
All in favor? Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Very good. We're gonna miss all these people. They're just wonderful people to have. So with that, I'd like to really jump into the next thing, which I didn't have on the schedule, but it kind of rides into it, is we need to start looking at replacements. Okay. So what I'd like to propose tonight is for the replacement of Mike Wolf, who is retiring as our highway foreman, highway supervisor, that we go out to the union and ask for anybody who wants to assume the position for the highway supervisor. By contract, the union has anybody in the union has 10 days to apply for the job that we will post. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, the motion will be to post for the replacement for the highway supervisor to the union. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? So carried. I would like to hold on the other two positions at this time and make these in sequence because number one, we can't make, if let's just say somebody from the union steps up and we don't know who that is, we can't make a replacement for them until the board votes and accepts that position. So we're kind of on hold for that position. For John Raimondo position, we really want to I want to take a step back and look at our options for how we work with maintenance and service of what John's responsibilities were before coming forward with that option. Is everybody okay with doing that in a step process?
I think so.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what we're talking about is there may be some shifting around and redefinition of some roles, especially as we're asking the highway department to do more of the maintenance in and around the parks and the village. So we have to basically get a handle on everybody's role. and see how we can mesh all these little parts together.
Well, the highway already does the parks. What
Yeah,
they weren't doing is what
We're
here.
making them do more now with the
Yeah.
pruning and the other stuff.
So that's what we need to discuss, and my plan is to work on that and bring it forward at our next meeting for discussion on that. You know, because I'm the liaison for the village buildings here, and I guess it falls onto me, and I will work, to try to define that. Okay.
If something goes wrong, I'm just thinking of, that there's not that much activity in Village Hall these days with COVID, it being closed. If something should go wrong, I was guessing that Ramondo was the point person, but is that taken care of in his absence, especially over the holidays when things are going to be pretty shut down?
Yeah. So the other thing, when John takes vacation, we've backfilled it with other people already.
Okay.
So we do have people that are trained on doing the jobs here within the village hall, and we will exercise those while we're working through this process.
Got it. Okay.
So if we get slammed with plowing, that's an unknown. Do we have options there?
Yeah. Remember, we have the bench of people that we've always had. So we will call in other people. But in theory, we're not losing anybody right now. We're not losing anybody at the highway garage, right? So the staff that's there is still there, right? Yeah. So it's kind of status quo, really. And then if we get a really barrage, we do call in our independent contractors, right, and put them on payroll and have them come in.
Yeah.
So that's the advantage of a couple of years ago when we passed that resolution to have a bench.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of people that are available. Okay, next, minutes approval I'm going to do these separately for the November 10th, 20 meeting. Do I have a motion to accept? I make a motion to accept the November 10th, 2020 meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I think I just
Seems
sent
pretty
one little.
comprehensive to me.
Sorry. Go ahead, Lydia.
I said it seemed pretty comprehensive to me.
I think I just sent one little typo to Martina.
All right, and Vanessa, you could get that too. Yeah, Martina, that'd be great. All right, all in favor of approving the 11:10 minutes? Aye. Raise your hand. Opposed? So carried. Now, same thing for the 11:24 special meeting, 11:24:20. I'd like to make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
Grant, second. All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed, so carried. All right, Karen, we're up to you for the treasurer's report.
Okay, the treasurer's report is for the period ending November 30th. The tax collector's account ended the month with $913,315.19. The general fund ended the month with $43,981.31. The water fund ended the month with $285,115.59. And the sewer fund ended the month with $524,465.24. Vouchers presented for payment, including prepaids, total in the general fund, $198,833.46. In the water fund, $56,409.36. In the sewer fund, $25,138.12. And we had one escrow payment in the amount of $1,073.25. I would like to just also inform the board that the general fund and water and sewer are a little higher this month as the annual retirement payment was included with those regular payments. The monthly operating statement, an operating statement has been provided with the revenue and expenditures through December 8th, and that is on the cloud. The water and wastewater, the billing and adjustments have been reviewed and signed off by the Water and Wastewater Department liaison and are presented for authorization.
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the water and wastewater adjustments as presented.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay.
All right, and next I have a few budget amendments to do. In the general fund, I looking to increase the trees and decrease the contingency by $1,600 for an unforeseen tree removal. They had to go out and remove a tree. The New York State retirement system, the ERS bill, increase that by 1,000, decrease the police and fire just because the ERS went over by like $900 and there was money in the police and fire. The streets repair machine, I want to increase that by 3,000, and I want to just take that from streets supplies, and that is for the repair of the leaf back truck that overdrew that one line item. In the water fund, this kind of goes back to jobs that have been completed, but I'm looking to do the budget amendments to amend the budget for them. The water landscaping, $65,350, and taking that from the capital account water. The water debt for the water main project, we did already pay a principal payment of $32,000. And we paid an interest payment of $6,275.37, and that will be a transfer from the water main project to the water fund to cover those two items. In the sewer fund, sewer supplies, unforeseen expenses for $2,000, sewer administration $200, and then taking that from fees non-employees for $2,200. I'm looking to increase the engineering line item by $3,000 and decrease the attorney line item by $3,000 because we've had several sewer projects come up that we've used the engineers for. The wastewater treatment plant filter building project, $99,950. That will be coming out of the sewer capital.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to accept the budget amendments as read.
Second.
Second.
All right, so Karen, I have a question, and I don't know if you can answer it. This is on the tree, or maybe Rick can answer it. The $1,600, was that the emergency tree that we had to remove on Mulberry? Do you know? Does anybody, do we know what tree that was?
There was also that tree that went down right by the corner of Knollwood and your street, Gary, and Somers, that big pine tree.
Yeah, no, that we didn't remove that. Well, they came in and chopped it up and pushed it off to the side. So that wouldn't come out as an expense here. If it was this a contractor expense, Karen?
Yeah, it was Dave's Tree Service.
Yeah.
I can go next door and get the voucher, but I don't have it in front of me.
Well, my only thought was if this was the one on Mulberry, we were to contact John. I had spoken to John about that one, and I know we paid it, but we were to contact the landowner, because the tree, was to be covered by them, but it was an emergency. When I went by, we had stripped it of all the limbs, but we didn't take the trunk down. And then later on, a couple days later, the trunk was removed. So I'm making the assumption this was Mulberry, and my question is, are we going to get reimbursed for this by the homeowner? I guess we'll find out. Right?
Was there one on North Parsonage?
There were two on North Parsonage.
I know.
Gary, it is our policy to ask for reimbursement. I haven't seen the voucher, so which I would come in and take a look at.
Yeah. All right. So let's find out if we can recover those funds. I would like to recover those funds. That's my only statement. Right. All right. Any other questions? All right. All in favor of the budget amendments? Oh, Lydia.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Accepted. Okay. Moving on. Thank you, Karen.
Well,
Okay. Now we're going to go into the report section of the agenda. Again, if we don't have a report, we're just not going to do it. And I would like if everybody could just summarize the reports, if they could, cover the main items in that. I will lead off with, I don't have the police report with me. Did we have a police report?
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at it, but I didn't print it out. So sorry, and I'm on this thing and I can't get to it.
I can read it real quickly.
Martina has it.
Okay.
Thank you, Martina, could you read that for me, please?
Give me 1 second.
While she's doing that, I'm going to jump ahead to stay on the police because just give an update on the police reform. There is a list of recommendations that we've accrued from our stakeholders and has been reviewed with our stakeholders to make sure we're all in agreement with these lists. And they basically break down into 3 categories: the community engagement, police policy changes, and documentation. One of the big, I just want to highlight some of the things, the community engagement. And there's been a lot of discussion about expanding our village PD to be 24 hours versus 7 to 11 as we are today, because it creates a lot of confusion of who's responding and whether it's the sheriff department or the state police. And this would be tabled to our budget process the next time, but that's a big item. The policy changes, we already have Lexapol. Pete Sergeant Dunn is working with Lexapol on our policy changes, and they will go through the review process of not only getting them documented by Lexapol, go through the police union, and then come to the board for approval for those. And then the last is documentation. And Trustee Bertozzi is working very diligently on our new website, which has a lot of information in a police page, which is going to be more robust than we've had ever before. So that's really a great idea. And updates, we're going to look at updating the complaint form. There's a suggestion on the complaint form was it had to be notarized. And it was felt that that was kind of an intimidating thing, even though there is a legal statute that you need to cover that's there, which we list, but we're going to remove the notary from the complaint process form and update that. So, any questions on those reform updates that we've been working on for the police reform?
Gary, what's the next deadline for this process? I remember there was an April deadline.
We defined our schedule, which I talked about early on. And the next thing that we're going to be working on is the community forums. And we are going to hold 3 community forums in January, kind of staggered time so we can try to hit as many people as possible. 1 mid-morning, 1 mid-afternoon, and 1 evening. And we're working on setting those dates for January to have the community forums done. All right, and we're under a deadline by April 1st to have a complete review of our process and signed off and handed into the state. So, but the policy changes are going to take a little bit of time also for us to work through. So we may be parsing them out over time as we get them done to the village board. Okay. Martina, please.
So the total number of incidents within the town was 19. The total number of incidents within the village was 103. The total number of tickets in the town was 5. The total number of tickets in the village was 23. There were 0 arrests, and the total number of accidents were 4. There was extra coverage scheduled for brush pickup, demonstrations or protests, the turkey trot, and election coverage.
And thank you, Martina. And so while I have it, we did get a late thing from the fire department, from the commissioners of the fire department, the board of directors, I should say, for the fire department, not commissioners. And this was on the fire department officers elections for 2021. I would just like to read these into the record because last Monday night they elected the slate of officers for the Rhinebeck Fire Department. And I'll read through these. Chief is Kyle Amy. Assistant Chief Bryant Knapp. First Captain Peter Fraley. Second Captain Todd Leary. First Lieutenant Sheldon Teeter, Second Lieutenant Blake Michael, EMS Captain Chrissy Amy, EMS First Lieutenant Jeff Cotter, EMS Second Lieutenant Talal Jabari, Fire Police Captain Tim Day, Fire Police First Lieutenant Frank Dietrich. The only vacancy is Fire Police Second Lieutenant, and for the board, the President remains Mark Brown, Vice President Sonny Freeman, Treasurer John Imperato, Secretary Walt Cotter, Financial Secretary Leanne Pitcher, First Director Ricky Dorr, Second Director Sandy Williams. I'd like to thank all of them for volunteering for their services and volunteering their time for the fire department and taking a leadership role in the fire department and really providing great services for the village of Rhinebeck.
Hi.
Building, planning, and zoning. Lydia.
There I am. The only report I have from them is their monthly fees report. They brought in a total of $5,275, mostly in building permits.
Wow. How much was that in building permits?
It was $4,625 in building permits with a total of $5,275 for the month.
Yeah. I know John's been very busy, so.
Yeah, he has.
Thanks. All right. Highway Department. Rick.
Leaf pickup is ongoing, and please separate your leaves from the rest of your yard waste debris. It breaks our truck. So if you have sticks, stumps, any other objects, put them in one pile. Please clear leaves so we can pick them up by vacuum. That's it.
Thank you. Grant, water, wastewater.
Waters. 2 service lines in Rhine Cliff were repaired. They cleaned the settlement tanks on the side next to the plant. At long last, we should have the generator set at the Hiley water tank around January 6th. So that's a bad time to pour concrete for the pad, but hopefully Conway's will get it done then. That's about it for water. With wastewater, the notice of award went to Rupp Brothers for the amount that Karen said, $99,950. They're supposed to do it soon. Karen wanted to know what the engineering fees were going to be, and they had bid 12 hours of oversight for pretty much a 3-week project, about 4 hours a week, in addition to the fees for the notice of award that they did. So that's with Ty and Bond, who's our village engineer. We still don't have phase 2 done for the Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority analysis for the consolidation, but Delaware Engineering said that they're 95% complete with phase 2, so I should have something soon on that, and we'll have, when they get a draft report, we'll have meeting, and then it'll be I'll bring it in front of all of you. So. That's about it for now.
Vanessa, environmental.
Yeah. On November 18th, the Energy Navigators, we had our info session. And I just wanted to share that we had 17 people show up for that online meeting. And we did record it, and it's now posted on our climatesmartrhinebeck.org website. And so that was really exciting. It was a great turnout. And they're continuing to work with those individuals who are taking them up on their offer to consult with them. The other thing I really wanted to encourage us to attend and to spread the word about is our climate comprehensive review. So this is kind of the capstone presentation for a 6-month project with our intern from the BARD Center for Environmental Policy, David Chernak. And this is jointly hosted between the village and the town. So it's a nice collaboration between our 2 municipalities. It'll actually be hosted on the town's Zoom, and this is on December 17th at 7 p.m. In addition to this presentation that David will make, we've also put out a survey for the public to take, to tell us how we're doing with the environment, with the climate, and what's of most importance to them, in their opinion. You can find all of this information at climatesmartrhinebeck.org/comprehensive-review. Please spread the word about the survey. We've already had about 30 people take that survey.
Trustees can take it as well, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would encourage everybody. I've taken it. It's I liked it. I would encourage everybody to go out and take that survey and participate in the meeting.
Yeah, and it's not just for village, it's town and village of Rhinebeck.
Is there a registration for this? I forget.
No, it's a Zoom, so you should be able to just join. The Zoom information is listed on the website and then the flyer that we're circulating.
Okay. Thank you, Vanessa. Okay, committee reports. Rick, do you have a park committee?
Yes, I want to highlight two things. I am the village representative to Thompson Mazzarell Park Committee, and the take-home message is that the committee is really looking to build some fields, most likely synthetic fields, down in the space across from the ball fields. That was where it was projected. The committee is organized to start to do fundraising, get bids. That's the primary function of that committee right now. So I just want to let folks know that's what's going on. There are other smaller issues in terms of maintenance, parking lots that will be addressed, but the main thrust is really going to be looking to get those ball fields underway. So that was one. And then also just on the tree commission, the tree commission did plant 14 trees at 11 sites on November 7th. And I'm going to take a moment just to say thank you to all the volunteers. We did this sort of in a COVID pod mode, so people had work groups together, and the volunteers were our trustee Bertozzi, Christina Fritz, Carly Fraccaroli.
Got it.
Yeah, if I mangle your name. Jamie Derbyshire, Jen and Scout Breslin, Christopher Tavener, Dodd Crane, Mary Burns, Kathleen and Pat Evans, and Joyce Messenger. And I just want to say a big thank you to all those people. They make a lasting contribution to the village.
Excuse me, Rick. I was in. So were you.
Yeah, that's true too. I'm not going to do no.
You forgot Tom Johnson and you forgot myself as well.
Oh, yes. Well, those are the citizen volunteers.
Yeah, Rick was in the back of a truck shoveling mulch a lot. I was there, and I ran a team as well to plant trees on South Street.
Yeah.
Like we do every year. Thank you. Okay. Police reform we've already discussed. I'm going to go into personnel. As always, I like to announce the people who have anniversaries with the Village of Rhinebeck. And this month we have 4. We have Deputy Clerk Chrissy Deneau, 11 years with the Village of Rhinebeck. Chrissy serves a multifunctional job as also our water clerk, working very closely with Karen. So, Chrissy, thank you. Really appreciate all the work that you do. Sergeant Peter Dunn, officer in charge, 19 years, right? So, thank you, Sergeant Dunn, for your leadership and your ability for serving the Village of Rhinebeck in your capacity as the officer in charge for the village police. And recent retiree, Highway Foreman Mike Wolf, 28 years. Right. And Officer Steve Hannenberg, the most longest serving person in the Village of Rhinebeck. Steve Hannenberg has been with the village 35 years. Thank you, Steve, for all your service back to the village. You're just an incredible asset to have. All right. Did I miss anything?
Well, we have no more guests, but just a reminder that your virtual village town hall is tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And then there were 7.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? So carried, yes. All correspondence is going to be on file at the clerk's office if anybody needs them. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy and have a safe holiday as best as it can be.
Good night.
Ho, ho,
Thank
ho.
you. You too.
Don't forget to come in and sign vouchers.
Oh, that's right.
Upstairs.
And
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.